The DeadSummer Art YouTube channel has the best lore videos for Flesh and Blood. They are amazing, and I'm going to binge every single one of them in one sitting. And you might ask yourself, well, Bronson, why are you doing this? I can just go to his channel normally. I'm telling you this, is that if you've seen me in my videos and you see my hands flail up in the air, you see me go crazy about Flesh and Blood, you see me do crazy stuff, and you hear me all the time saying, I love the lore and artwork of Flesh and Blood. That's what got me passionate about this game. And you might see all that and say, well, Bronson, why don't you make lore videos or talk about the lore or the artwork? And I'll tell you this is I would, but the DeadSummer Art YouTube channel just does it so much better than I would ever do it, and his videos are amazing. Kale is the creative mastermind behind DeadSummer Art YouTube channel, and he's given me permission here today to really watch all of his videos in front of you and put it on my channel. So big shout out to him. I will put a link down below to his channel. Please check him out. If you've ever wondered why Bronson is so, passionate about Flesh and Blood, this is why. And when I was first starting out on YouTube and when I was first getting into Flesh and Blood, I watched his videos and it really got me interested in the lore and the artwork. So I really owe a great debt to Kale, and honestly, I really look up to him. He's a really awesome guy. He's a really big pillar in the community. He is the lore guy in my mind, and I think his channel is awesome. Now I'm gonna start. Let's see, what video do we have now? I think it is the World of Flesh and Blood. Welcome to Wrath. Okay, let's watch it. And just to say, there's 5 videos, and I've watched every single video about 8 times. So another reason why I'm doing this is because I'm gonna do it anyway. Might as well just sit back and relax and chill with you guys and watch the video. So let's begin. So here's Welcome to Wrath, the World of Flesh and Blood. I think this is one of my favorites. This is so good. Like, look at that artwork. That's beautiful. I love that one. Yeah.
Welcome to Wrath, a world that is constantly changing and evolving, where anything is possible. Hidden villages lie within massive mountain ranges. A noble kingdom sprawling across verdant plains, clashing with the inhabitants of a primal wilderness. Fantastical realms and a technological empire can exist side by side, each unaware of their neighbor's existence.
Duality right there. Different sides.
Interesting lore.
I'm telling you, man.
Most being
duality.
slowly revealed to us over the course of time, hidden within card art, articles, and more.
Yep.
In this and future videos, I will be dissecting various elements of the world and story in parts. Heroes, important characters, artifacts and weapons, and regions will all be investigated and researched. As more of the lore is revealed, more heroes
are look at that art.
And more stories are told.
He's insane.
I will collate them into lore breakdown videos. Today, I will be discussing the overall scene and foundation of the lore of Flesh and Blood, the world itself, Wrath.
I love that background music too, man. It's everything synced perfectly. There's no way I could do this.
Long ago, the land of Wrath was settled by humans, who arrived on its shores as they sought a place to settle. When the humans arrived, they found a land full of vast mountain ranges, volcanic plains, savage jungle, rolling fields, and majestic forests. The land is fueled by magic, and once belonged to incredible beings beyond imagination. As humans
so
began to
relaxing,
more,
guys.
The land changed around them. Some took to the magic of the land, harnessing it and wielding it as a weapon for battle, whilst others chose to find their own way, creating technology to progress their societies.
I like that.
For a time,
like
the world
magic
was in a
or
constant
technology.
state of war, with
Duality.
armies and battles destroying and pillaging the land. Hope was bleak, as many feared that the wars would never end. Eventually, however, the wars ended, with armies retreating back to their respective territories. But this newfound peace is only temporary. Tensions rise once more, kingdoms teeter on the brink of battle, and dark powers.
It's one of my favorite arts right there, Ira. So badass.
Wrath is divided into many different regions, each with their own unique people, culture, laws, and landscapes. As of the release of Flesh and Blood, 8 major regions have been revealed, with 4 being the forefront
Yeah,
of the
this
Walking
blew
Dead
my
set.
mind when I saw all these
These 4
banners.
regions are as follows. Solana, a large kingdom located near the center
Yeah.
of the land, notable for its large and grand structures of marble and stone, and renowned for its skilled warriors and knights. Aria, to the northeast, a hidden realm full of vibrant plant life and creatures, ever-changing and plentiful of magic. Its townships often host celebrations and festivals, complete with entertainers of all types.
Aria's where I'd live, guys. I don't know about you.
The Savage Lands, far to the west, is an unforgiving landscape filled with numerous dangers and hidden beasts. The inhabitants of this land are not only strong, but also feared.
Shh. I just love he's like,
And
can I help you?
Hysteria,
He's
nestled
like eating a
hidden away
corpse.
within
Can
the
I help
mountains
you?
To the east, and often shrouded in mist. Being disconnected from the majority of the rest of Wrath, its people find satisfaction within introspection and self-discipline, honing not only their bodies, but also their minds. The 4 other regions of Wrath, yet to be
I love
fully
this
revealed,
banner.
are as follows. Metrix, a busy commercial city and trading hub for the continent. Its citizens
This is
pride
before
themselves
Arcane
in the
Rising,
pursuit
guys.
Of technology and
This guy's
innovation.
Kale is
Those
just a
wishing to find
genius. He
better
did all
tomorrow
this
are
before
often drawn to the
Arcane
city.
Rising.
The Pits, underground caverns that run deep below the city of Metrix. Unsavory folk settle within the darkness and run illegal and immoral services from below the surface of the land.
I might go there time to time.
The Demonastery, an island shrouded in mist far beyond the shores south of Wrath. This island is home to magicians and scientists who
This
wish
map
to
is in the lore
pursue
book,
study
too.
of forbidden subjects. And Volcor, an area ravaged by rivers of lava and pools of magma. Its citizens are ruled over by the generals and constantly battle for their lives under the rule of the royal family. These regions all have their own stories and tales, and these will be discussed in future videos. So, with a basic understanding of the world of Wrath, we can now begin to dive deep into the lore that makes up Flesh and Blood. In upcoming videos, I will first be discussing the heroes of Wrath, their backstories, and where their stories currently reside. If you wish for me to research and create a video about a certain character, region, or subject, feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you'd like to see. Until then, play hard and hit harder.
Wow. That was amazing. Video number 2. Let's talk about Ira. Now, before I get into video 2, I also want to say, before I forget, I want to congratulate Kale as well. He was recently selected by Channel Fireball to make videos for that channel. I will put a link down below to those videos as well, and those are amazing. He basically made these souped up videos that are 20 minutes and 30 minutes long that really delve deep into the lore as well, and really go deep and explain things just so well. He did a great job. You know, shout out to him. DeadSummer Art is, I mean, the videos speak for themselves. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just so relaxed now. I feel good. Before I was a little antsy and animated, but these videos make me calm down. And oh man, I just love watching them, man. Huh. Okay, let's look at Ira. So Heroes of Wrath, Ira. That's this video.
Long ago, a mysterious woman landed on the shores of Mysteria.
I really love this video.
She came from an unknown land, travelling from village to village. This mysterious young woman rarely spoke, occasionally giving voice to a question, or engaging with someone in quiet discussion. One day, she came across a wizened old man sitting on a log, carefully setting out his wares on a worn blanket. On the ground before him lay 5 items: a chunk of rock, a dark crystal, a pale branch, a vibrant flower, and a tiny pouch.
Take the rock.
Looking over
Take the
items,
rock.
the woman found herself drawn to the pouch.
That's what I would do.
Old and faded, its
well.
drawstrings were tied in a simple
Next time,
knot,
maybe.
concealing the contents within. Curious, she asked,
Do you know what is within? May I open it?
Silently, the old man shook his head. After a moment's deliberation, the woman removed a ring from her finger, a deceptively plain silver band.
Would this be a fair trade?
The old man merely smiled in response, offering a small nod. Thanking him, she passed him the ring, taking the pouch in exchange.
It's an odd way to do business.
The woman
well.
continued on her travels.
It's deep.
moving
There's some
from
deep
village to
meaning into
village.
that, guys.
For months, she travelled across
Don't think too
Mysteria,
much at face value. There's
seemingly
deep
searching
meaning
for
into that.
something, yet never finding what it was that she was looking for. Finally, she came across a steep mountain range, carefully picking her way down the rocky slope. Standing atop a small hill, she looked down upon a rolling valley and pulled out the pouch that she had traded for so long ago. From the pouch, the woman removed a single pale seed. She planted it with her own 2 hands, watering and caring for the tiny seedling that sprouted. The seedling slowly grew into a beautiful cherry blossom tree, bright
Those
and
trees
cheerful
are
in its stance high above the
beautiful.
village built below.
I
Mistress
love cherry
Akari,
blossoms.
once a mysterious stranger, took a name in honor of the tree that now watched over her home. The House of Blossoms flourished under her careful guidance, growing from a tiny village into a house worthy of its founder. Long after the mistress took her last breath, the Akairu clan would continue to grow, thriving under the branches of the cherry blossom tree.
Yeah, so I guess she was the starter of the whole clan. That's cool.
Before she passed, Mistress Aikairu laid to rest her weapon, an elegant blade inscribed with the shapes of cherry blossom petals, dancing along the length of the metal. The sword was as long as her arm, reaching from the base of her shoulder to the tips of her fingers, and had only been wielded once. This weapon was called Edge of Autumn.
That's such a cool sword.
Despite its beautiful, ethereal appearance, the Edge of Autumn lent a feeling of disquiet to the small shrine. Dread hung in the air like a thick blanket of smoke, chasing away most of its would-be visitors, save for the mistress herself. Once Mistress Aikairu had passed, few came to visit the building, and so the Edge of Autumn became accustomed to the long stretches of silence, a thick layer of dust collecting on the mantle around it. As the years passed, all of its visitors grew old and passed away, and the blade was soon forgotten entirely, avoided by every single one of its mistress's descendants. No one dared to come near the blade, fearing the chill in the air when they stepped too close. For hundreds of years, it lay forgotten, and from behind the curtain of wilted leaves, it silently waited for its mistress's return.
It's crazy how much history there was just like the past.
Many years later, a
It's
descendant
like
of the
hundreds of
mistress
years later,
would change
Ira.
this.
That's insane to me. They have all this backstory to the current story. That was it. This is current.
Growing up in the peace and serenity of the Aikaru village, Ira was a bright and free-spirited child, always getting herself into trouble. Her brothers, Xylin and Jing, were often pulled into her mischief, despite trying their best to rein in their unruly younger sister. While her parents were often exasperated by her inability to sit still and listen to her tutors, they loved her dearly.
She's a
The
ninja.
memories of her family were
She's
fond.
not going to stay
Her
still.
village, a complimentary backdrop to
Oh, buffering. Time for water break. You serious, YouTube? Are you seriously doing this to me now?
her tutors.
There we go.
They loved her dearly. Her memories of her family were fond. Her
Smooth,
village,
Bronson,
a complimentary
smooth.
backdrop to the peace and contentment of her childhood. Despite her parents' constant warnings, Ira would sometimes escape to the shrine at the very top of the valley, nestled beneath the tree her family was named for. Within the shrine lay an elegant sword, cherry blossoms engraved along the length of the blade.
Oh, we've already
No
seen
matter
this.
how many times she tried, she could never manage to pick up the blade, always interrupted before she could lay
No,
her
no,
hands
I think we're
upon the
good.
dusty metal.
I've watched these videos so many times, I forget.
Told you not to come here, her father told her on one occasion. Because this shrine is sacred. You should only come to the shrine if there is an emergency, Ira. Despite his words, she always returned, drawn to the shrine by the sword that lay within.
It's
Many
cool that
years
she was
passed,
drawn to
and
the
sometime
sword
after
and
her
everyone
14th
was
birthday,
drawn away.
Ira returned from training with her brothers.
I think that's interesting.
While the exercises had been boring, she had enjoyed the chance to get out of the valley and spar. However, when they stepped into the village, they immediately realized that something was wrong. A mass of inky shapes flooded the valley, a horde of creatures filling the streets, laying siege
Shit's
to their
getting
ancestral
dark.
home. One of the creatures closest to them turned, revealing an old, stained mask made of polished bone. Its shapeless, writhing mass was covered by a thin membrane, revealing glimpses of bone and muscle shifting underneath. The monster grew taller, its body straining upward as it shifted shape. As the siblings drew their weapons, their father appeared before them, placing himself between his children and the massive creature. "Leave it to me," he yelled, holding his sword steady before him. "You must get to the family shrine. Do not stop until you reach it, no matter what you see." Xylin quickly pulled his
That's a
two younger
badass.
siblings out of the way, forcing them to run through the valley, racing towards the ancient shrine. They wove between the buildings, dodging the reach of mutated creatures, running past the villagers fighting in the streets. While plenty of monsters lay in their path, not one tried to chase after them. Rushing into the shrine, the siblings closed the door behind them and began to search. The words of their father, many years past, returned to them. "Come to the shrine if there is an emergency," Ara mused. He has to have had a plan. While her brothers checked the walls, Ira found herself drawn to the blade displayed at the back of the shrine, finally placing
She's like,
her hand upon
now
it.
I need it.
As she lifted it from the table, a great shudder racked the building, the wood groaning beneath their feet. The back walls slowly began to slide away, revealing a dark passageway cut into the mountain. Before any of them could make for the tunnel, the shrine lurched once more. Moonlight burst into the room as a creature tore through the front wall, crowding the entranceway. The
Damn.
masked beast towered over the siblings once again, dark and menacing. Its mask slowly slid upward, its faceless shape splitting open to reveal dozens of rows of teeth, releasing a blood-curdling scream from its newly formed mouth. Xylin immediately drew his sword, leaping in front of his siblings. He lifted his weapon to strike, but before the blade could make contact, the creature lunged forward. Like lightning, it struck, and in an instant their brother was torn in two, slashed open from hip to hip, the lower half of his body collapsing to its
Game's
knees.
dark, man. I'm telling you.
Blood and entrails hung from the creature's
Everyone
gaping
doesn't
maw as
live.
it roared once more,
Things get
teeth
dark.
gleaming in the pale moonlight.
Monarch 2021.
Jin quickly
Let's
grabbed
see
Ira
what
before
happens.
she could make a move, pulling
Sorry.
her into the
Brother
passageway
died.
and forcing her
Ira's
to run.
doing good.
The creature chased after them, hundreds of tiny hands forming from its misshapen body,
Jeez.
dragging along the ground as it pulled itself into the tunnel. A high-pitched wail echoed in the dark as it tried to force itself after the pair, its giant body struggling to fit. The tunnel, decrepit after years of disuse, gave a warning groan. The stone beneath their feet shuddered as the walls collapsed around them, crushing the monster under tons of stone and earth.
Very smart.
Sprinting down the passageway, Jing and Ira narrowly avoided the cave-in, escaping with their lives. Much later, when they had emerged once more, covered in dirt and dust, Ira turned to seek the frame of her burning building, bright against the night sky. Jing slowly walked over to stand at her side, and the siblings stood together in silence.
It's gonna suck.
watching and waiting
Your whole
for the sun to
village
rise.
gets burned to the ground.
In the
Random
weeks
face
following,
mask people
Ira and Jing
kill your
began to
village.
search for survivors, drawing as close to their childhood home as they dared. Only a few others had escaped from the village in time, vassals of the House of Blossoms. No one else emerged from the village, no other survivors stepped forward, and so Ira and Jing became the last living members of the Okaru bloodline. Yet, as time wore on, they began to discover a new truth. It began when they came across another group of survivors, suffering from the same injuries as their own group.
It's
They
very
described
interesting.
an attack on their village by a horde of monsters.
Who
one
are
that
these
was eerily
monsters?
similar to
Where'd
their
they
own
come from?
experiences. Then they found another
Arcane
group with the
Rising.
same tale, and another.
Hint, hint.
Word spread across Mysteria, describing what became known as the Night of the Dark Tide. A massive group of monstrous beasts rising from the earth and attacking villages across Mysteria. In all, 8 houses had been wiped out in a single night. Not only the clans themselves, but their villages, their records. For some, it almost seemed as if they had been erased from history itself.
Jeez.
Ira and Jing found themselves in charge of a large group of survivors, totaling nearly 40 members in all. They banded together, searching for a place to settle, and taking comfort in their shared numbers. This wasn't enough for Ira. As she grew older, her memories of the Dark Tide drove her down a path of vengeance. Searching for answers,
I love this
Ira gathered the
backstory.
remaining
It's so
survivors
cool.
and founded the Crimson Haze Rebels.
Crimson
The
Haze.
group
That is
began
a
to travel
badass
across
group.
Mysteria, searching for information on the night of the Dark Tide. Ira chose to wield the Edge of Autumn in memory of her clan, and Jing
That
silently
artwork,
watched
shit,
as the weapon's
so
dark
good.
essence began to warp her skin, seeping into her veins.
She doesn't care. She wants vengeance. Revenge.
One morning,
That's so cool.
Ira woke to find a note attached to her bedroll. Jing had seemingly disappeared into thin air, leaving
Jing.
only a short message in his place.
Yeah.
Dear sister, over the last 7 years, I have watched you grow, founding the Crimson Haze Rebels and searching for the truth behind the destruction of our home. I know that the events of the Dark Day still weigh on you, and I know that you think that finding those responsible will help you to move on. However, this quest for justice has changed you, Ira. It has morphed into a dark desire for vengeance, and I worry that there is nothing left of the sister that I grew up with. As the last of our family, it is our duty to return to the valley and rebuild the village, to help our clan move forward. Yet, you continue to ignore your responsibilities, choosing to journey further and further from our home in search of retribution. I cannot watch you dishonor our family any longer. I have left to find a way to restore our family's name and rebuild the House of Blossoms. I can only hope that one day you might finally come to your senses and join me there. Jing.
Crumpling
That's
the
not
note,
gonna happen.
Ira
Spoiler
dropped it to
alert.
the ground, crushing the paper beneath her heel. A short call drew her outside of her tent, stopping to speak to a messenger. While her brother searched in vain for another path, she would continue to search and bring her clan to justice.
Ira's a badass.
So, all of what you just heard was the backstory for Ira. I covered her ancestor, how her house was founded, and how she came into possession of the
It's Ira,
powerful
man.
sword Edge of Autumn. But there are a few extra things about Ira that I would like to cover, as they are quite interesting, yet not mentioned in her published backstory so far. Ira learned the dance of the Mist Blossom from Mistress Ikaru, and now displays it as her signature move. This is a quote from
Flick
the
flack.
official Flesh and Blood website, cited on the Ira Hero page. Initially, I thought that perhaps Mistress Ikaru may have been a close relative to Ira, possibly even her mother, as we don't have any information regarding Ira's mother. However, if we look back at the backstory about Mistress Ikaru, specifically Edge of Autumn, it states, "For hundreds of years, it lay forgotten." This to me says
that's a
that
good point.
Mistress Ikaru was not alive when Ira was born, and
Yeah.
that Ira most likely learnt the Whirling Mist Blossom technique herself through scrolls or books that the mistress left behind, not directly from her.
Yeah, scrolls are
Either
smart.
way, it seems that Ira and her ancestor were much closer in purpose and ideals than any other member from the House of Blossoms. Another cool piece of hidden information was found whilst I was doing research for this video. I scoured the official website for images to use for videos and other projects, and dug into the code to extract them. What caught my attention was
I
the
love
name
this.
of the art piece that is featured on Ira's hero card. The file on the website was named 101, Ira the Wilted. The part to notice in the file name is the suffix, the Wilted, at the end of Ira's name. Ira's hero card shows us the name Ira Crimson Haze, which is not the same as the name of this artwork. This means that Ira's title for her hero card was possibly Ira the Wilted, whilst in development, but got changed before her release. Why does this matter? It doesn't really, but the meaning behind
does
the
matter.
changed title shows how far
It
Ira
does.
is willing to go for vengeance. Also written on the official website is the following quote for Edge of Autumn. "The ancestral sword of Ikaru clan, Edge of Autumn is rumoured to wilt the life essence of those who wield it. What is Ira hiding under the runic bandages?"
Get this depth.
The Edge of Autumn seems to be magical in some capacity.
Why?
It takes a toll on the
Dig
user.
deeper.
This drain is wilting the heir to the House of Blossoms.
Yeah,
Quite
that's
poetic,
such a
isn't
good
it?
point.
So, that's
There's
all for
depth.
today's Ira video. First of all, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who has been commenting, subscribing,
That's me.
liking the videos, sharing them.
I've been liking
It's
and
meant the world to
commenting.
me. This
It's me,
is
Bronson.
the first time I've really tried to
I'm your
do
biggest
a
fan.
public project of
Nah,
some
honestly, this
sorts,
video is awesome.
for something that I really enjoy, and it's fantastic the outpouring of support I've had from everyone in the Flesh and Blood community. Even Legend Story Studios themselves have reached out to me, and yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all for watching so very, very much. Keep an eye out in the near future, as I will have more videos definitely coming soon.
Thank you,
This
Kale.
one took quite some time, and I apologize for the wait, but hopefully the next ones should be a lot easier to produce faster. So until next time, we'll see you around.
Yeah, that was such a good video. I really like how he went into detail and talked about the Ira the Wilted, and it's really interesting too because it's Ira's using the edge of autumn and it's hurting herself. And if you think about a flower, when it wilts, it's dying, so she's slowly wilting away because she wants the power of the edge of autumn and to do, you know, really good damage, as they say. Now, the next video we have is the Blade of Iridani, exclusive Arcane Rising spoiler. Kale got a Arcane Rising spoiler card, and I really love how this video is constructed through the whole lore, and then it has, you know, the spoiler at the end. It's not a spoiler now, but it was a really cool video, so I'm gonna start playing it now. Ah, so relaxing. This is what I want to do on a weekend.
The Blade of Iridani was once commissioned by the Grand Magister, the Radiant, and gifted to a Templar named Elias, as part of a ceremony to thank Elias for his many great deeds for the people of Solana. A two-handed greatsword, it was forged from pure silver steel, with a gilded hilt engraved with a blessing from the Grand Magister himself. An enchanted crystal was embedded into the sword's pommel.
A sigil of
imbued the
solace.
blade with a fragment of Soul's Light.
Something important about that rock,
On his
man.
deathbed,
I love rocks.
Elias gifted the blade
Something's
of
interesting with
Iridani
that
to his eldest son, who in turn gifted it to his eldest daughter. The blade of Iridani passed down the generations, until it was one day inherited by Leto, a Templar in the Hand of Soul. Leto's party was most often assigned to the golden fields beyond Solana, tasked with keeping the roads clear of bandits and protecting travelling merchants. One day, Leto and his party were accompanying a trade caravan, escorting it to the borders of Metrics.
Yeah.
The caravan was carrying precious metals and rare alchemical components, and so became the target of a mercenary.
Such a
company.
good image.
By the time the caravan reached Metrics, Leto and his party had lost their scholar, and were themselves wounded as a result of the frequent violent attacks. On their way back to Solana, Leto's party was ambushed in the dead of night by bandits. Caught off guard and heavily outnumbered, he and his fellow knights fell, succumbing to their injuries. The following morning, a young lady by the name of Vera Sutcliffe was travelling back to her family's estate when she came across the bodies of Leto's party. Checking each night, found Leto alive, and rode through the night to get him to her family home. With the help of both Vera and a village healer, Leto recovered from his injuries. Vera had always dreamt of becoming a Knight of Solana, ever since witnessing the Solstice of Laurels as a child.
Gotta go to that
and
chamber.
So spent most of her time talking to
Gotta
the
figure out
recovering
what you're
Templar.
doing.
While he survived, Leto was shamed by the deaths of his party members, and knew his duty to return to Solana and inform their families. Before he left, Leto gifted the blade of Iridani to the young lady Vera, claiming that a noble heart deserves a noble blade. He wished upon her the blessings of soul, and hoped that her family would one day be accepted into Solana.
That guy sounds like a badass.
While Lady Vera could not join the Light of Soul, she hired the services of a mercenary, training and studying swordsmanship so that she might fight as well as any Solanian knight. The Sutcliffe family prospered greatly under her guidance, raising generations of wise and noble fighters, capable of both leading and protecting their people. It is said that when Lady Vera finally passed away from this world, the blade of Iridani shattered, never to be wielded by any other. Ever since, the Sutcliffe family has kept it on display in the family estate, a reminder of the values of their noble ancestor. When Lord Sutcliffe left his family's estate for the Demonastery, he took few personal effects, save for a few research items, the Arknight Shard, and a family heirloom.
He went to the dark side,
Once
guys.
known as the Blade of Iridani, the sword was broken long ago, kept only as a decoration. While creating the Arknight, Lord Sutcliffe decided to give the sword a new life. Renamed the Nebula Blade, Lord Sutcliffe engraved the blade with conductive and focusing runes, which allow the Arknight to channel power through its shaft to form a blade of pure aether.
That's so cool.
The runes
Blade of
have corrupted
Iridani,
the blade's original purpose,
Nebula Blade.
and as Viserai learned to wield the Nebula Blade, the power of the Arknight Shard seeped into the crystal embedded in the pommel, staining it a deep, dark purple. When Viserai holds the Nebula Blade, the power of the Arknight Shard reforges the sword. The enchanted silver steel blade, while broken, remembers its original shape. As the aether moves through the crystal, it recreates the sword, forming a blade of solid aether.
That's so cool.
The embedded runes allow the blade to possess the strength of solid silver steel and the sharp, honed edge of a Solanian blade. In combining the physical and the arcane, two halves forming a whole, the blade mirrors its wielder, made stronger by the break. I want to give first and foremost a massive thank you to Legend Story Studios
Nebula
for allowing
Blade.
me to
Spoiled.
spoil this fantastic card. It looks amazing, and I can't wait to get this in foil. And last but not least, thank you to all the fans who have supported me throughout this time.
It's me.
It has allowed me to have this opportunity in the first place, so I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome, Kale. Thank
So
you.
until next time, play hard and hit harder.
All right, let's do the next one. We got Lore Pitch. Who is Fandale? That's a really good question. Fandale is on a lot of cards. We need to figure out who exactly
Among the many
Fandale
characters
is.
and figures that live on, interact with, and shape the world of Wrath, many are well known, and their stories told wide and far.
By you.
However, none are quite as mysterious and influential as Fiendal. In the game
That's so
itself,
true.
the name Fiendal is most often associated with the extremely rare and fabled card Heart of Fiendal. With the chances of pulling this card from a booster pack very unlikely, collectors pay a high premium for a chance to own one, and players swoon over the majestic art and design of it.
He was before his time,
Other
man.
competitive players
This is
will seek
before the
out
price
another card,
spikes.
that of Fiendal's Spring Tunic, as the benefit of an extra resource point every few turns is highly powerful. Thankfully, while still quite rare, the tunic is more common to find in your booster pack. It still fetches a decent price, however, as professional players and tournament grinders alike yearn for the extra benefits alongside their decks. Even the card Tome of Fiendal has been seeing competitive play as of late, finding
Yeah,
a home
all
in the
those
championship
cards.
deck from the Calling Auckland 2020 tournament. It seems that anywhere Fiendal is mentioned, the word powerful often follows. But who or what is Fiendal? Where did these mysterious artifacts originate from? And why are they so powerful?
Great questions. Great question. I have those questions now too. Why? What is it?
The information that we currently have regarding Fiendal is limited, and with no solid proof as to who or what they are, the best we can do is speculate. The information we do have, however, can allow us to formulate a few theories that seem likely or convincing. The first theory, and the one that a lot of people may believe, is that Fiendal was, or is, a person in some form or capacity. The strongest piece of evidence for this theory lies in the artwork for Fiendal's Spring Tunic. It is not wrong for us to assume that the person wearing Fiendal's Spring Tunic is, indeed, Fiendal themselves. If Fiendal is the person wearing their namesake tunic, then she is most likely a woman who attended the carnivals found within Aria, a magic-filled region that fosters joy and peace. Something that also gives credence to this theory is some information that can be
I
found
want
within
that
the
book
Lost
so
Breath
much.
lore book. On page 97, in the section that talks about the performers that can be found across Aria, it states, "Some stage their performances within the circus tents, while others perform in the open, enchanting passers-by. Stilt walkers wade through the crowds, as bards tell stories and music drifts through the air. Rings of tents hide fortune tellers and oracles, curtains drawn back to reveal the candlelit tables within. Illusions and displays of light weave their way through the air above, while below, the enchantresses and illusionists dance, their golden jewelry chiming with every movement." Looking at the art for the spring tunic, you can see that the dress itself has bits of golden jewelry hanging from it, and so does the woman wearing it.
Such a good
It is
observation.
also clear that the artwork depicts a festival, almost
Yep.
guaranteed to be Aria.
He's tying in the
This means
lore
that
and the
Fiona was
artwork.
connected to the region of Aria in some form, but
It's
this fact
connecting.
will be explained a little bit later.
Depth.
As for the theory that Fiona is a person, despite having artwork depicting a woman in one of the cards mentioning Fiona, the fact that Heart of Fiona depicts a strange gem as a heart lends credit to other theories that suggest she was something more than human. Another popular theory about the origin of Fiona, many believe that she may be a god within the World of Wrath. Within the region of Aria, a region that we now know holds some connection to Fiona, a tale is shared amongst its inhabitants. Storytellers recall the creation of the sun and moon by an entity simply known as the Exalted One. The tale goes something like this. Long ago, the world of Wrath was cast into darkness, and its people cried out in fear. No plant could grow, no creature could see, and all was silent and still. And so, the Exalted One, great creator of life, gave light to the world, plucking 2 stars from distant skies. One star became the sun and was placed within a chariot of radiant gold. The other became the moon and was placed within a chariot of shining silver. However, all was not yet complete. The Exalted One gave life to 2 new beings, a pair of divine beings known as Barda and Asra. Bright, lively Barda was given the golden chariot and 2 swift steeds of vibrant flame. Quiet, thoughtful Asra was given the silver chariot and 2 gentle steeds of pale frost.
Like Moon Wish and
At
Sun
once,
Kiss.
The twins took
Probably
to the
that.
sky. The light of golden
With 2
Barda
twins.
brought day to the
Oh,
children.
well, there
of
it
Wrath,
is.
a time
Sun
of life
Kiss.
and of creation. The light of
Moon
silver
Wish.
Asra brought night, the time to rest and to recharge. Thus, the people of Wrath flourished beneath the light of the stars, and the twins have proudly fulfilled their duty ever since. Some interesting flavor text regarding the creation of the sun and moon has recently been revealed in the Arcane Rising expansion, found on the card Sun Kiss. Separated by a power greater than their own, they chased each other across the sky, wishing for nothing more than to reunite.
Because they
Another
can't.
piece of information that could
Day
refer
and night.
to Fiendal being a deity is found on another
can't meet.
card of their namesake, Tome of Fiendal. It states, "Even the simplest recollection of the Old Ones holds immense power." This confirms that Fiendal was at the very least a powerful entity, possibly a deity, and is considered an Old One. But what exactly is an Old One? Are they gods, ancestors of Wrath before it was settled, or something different entirely? This leads me to the final theory,
That's a good
one that I
question.
personally believe is the most likely.
I'm still enjoying this.
Before
I've
Wrath
watched
was
this
settled
8
by
times.
humans, it once belonged to others. If you have watched my first video, which discusses the world of Wrath itself,
We
you
did.
may remember a small piece of information that I discussed. This is the land of Wrath, a land once fueled by magic, once a home to incredible beings beyond imagination. Humans have overtaken the land, spreading across the continent and changing the land around them. So, Wrath was once inhabited by extremely powerful beings, and we have seen mentions of beings known as Old Ones, so it is safe to assume
Like
that
whoever
they
that
are
guy
one and
is.
the same. This would confirm that Fiendal was on Wrath before humans arrived, and is extremely powerful. Taking a look at the artwork for Heart of Fiendal, we can see that it is a gem of some sort, wrapped in vines and branches. Keep this image in your mind, as we'll come back to this soon. Within another section of the Welcome to Wrath lore book, there is a peculiar entry in the section that discusses Arya. The section is named A Lost Tome, and the following is written. This unknown damaged journal was found in a cave revealed by the changing of the flow. It is unknown how old the journal is, or who owned it, but it remains a dubious record of someone called a Guardian, assumedly related to Arya's history in some way. Some of the pages are missing, others show signs of water damage, and the cover is marked with what appears to be burns. We have managed to extract a small excerpt of the tome, despite the heavy damage.
Oh yeah, it's
Following
like this.
section is an image of
You'll
one of
see.
the pages from this tome. This page is worn.
This
and a
is
lot of the
really
writing is
cool.
faded.
This is in the lore book.
It says
You
the
gotta
following.
check it out. It's like a mystery. What does it mean? And he goes
Several
in.
months in, and still nothing. The book keeps telling me I haven't found anything yet. It's been weeks, and I'm still travelling around, waiting for something to happen. It did lead me to a lake. There was an old woman there, but she didn't know anything about any guardians. She didn't even know what a guardian was. Is this book truthful?
This
Maybe
isn't
it
microphone
has been
bad
laid
thing.
in the heart of the guardian.
He's mummering out the
And
stuff
how
you
they
can't
would get it
read.
to write all by itself.
Brilliant.
The messages keep appearing. I've tried to discover the source of
Brilliant.
the power, but I tire of traveling and
I can't do this stuff.
It did-
Kale is amazing. He's really good content.
It even disappeared for a few hours yesterday. I spent the whole day searching before I finally found it next to a cave, and I swear it changed while it was missing. It's larger now. I have to hold it with the rest of my gear. When I opened it this morning, there was a drawing of a ka'ayo next to a fallen tree trunk, but it didn't tell me anything about where to find it or why it was there. I've been pondering my next move for some time now, but I haven't completed any of the deeds or tasks that it described. I don't know if I'm even going to uphold my promise and become a guardian at this point. In the morning when I awoke, I found some kind of gem buried in the earth next to my campsite. There was this great furry creature sitting nearby with something in its jaws. I can't understand it. I wonder if it has any connection to this book. What familiar creatures? I didn't think there were many left. It can be theorized that what you just heard was the recollection of an individual who was using the Tome of Fiona as a guide to become a guardian. To further back up this statement, we can take a look at the section within the lore book that talks about the guardians and how they came to be. Long ago, when
Makes
Arya was
sense.
surrounded by
Guardian
warriors,
Shield.
the
Monarch,
people of
2021.
Arya were protected by the guardians.
Or later.
The guardians were blessed with a connection to an elemental, gifting them with extraordinary abilities. Through years of training, they learned to hone their abilities and transform into incredible warriors, blessed with supernatural strength and elemental skills. The flow shaped them, molding them into the perfect protector, tasked with guarding their people and their home. So, with all the information that is now presented, let me give you what I believe to be the most significant evidence as to the origins of Fiona. The damaged journal entry speaks of a person searching for something, using a tome to direct them towards their goal. This magical tome is what we can reasonably assume to be the Tome of Fiona. This tome is most likely a way for those worthy of the title of Guardian to become one, guiding them and shaping them to become defenders of the land. Perhaps the heart of Fiona is the means for Guardians to use the flow to empower themselves in battle. The gem that was described by the writer of the journal sounds similar to that of the heart. It would make sense for it to be so, the destination of aspiring Guardians. With Guardians also having a strong connection to an elemental, the ties with the mysterious gem, and the tome, it seems to prove a potential theory. Fiona was one of the old ones, powerful elementals that could shape the land around them, possibly even giving birth to it. The heart of Fiona seems like a perfect fit for the source of power behind a powerful elemental. You may be thinking, how does this connect to the tunic? If this theory we just discussed is correct, then perhaps the spring tunic is merely an item of clothing crafted with the essence of the flow, and worn by enchantresses as a symbol of their connection to the land.
Oh, I think my
Final piece
video
of
just screwed up
information
there,
I would like
guys.
to cover is something that we have only recently learned. Within the backstory of the Arknight Viserai, a particular section may have actually given us the names of these old ones. When Viserai converses with a mysterious stained glass window, decorated with the image of a woman,
So much
the
information
entity,
here.
referred
It's
to as
awesome.
Whisper, states, beware the man born into power, who abandoned his people to pursue the arcane arts. He who, even now, seeks power to rival the Aether themselves. He who would bend and break the laws of this world as he sees fit.
We're going to talk about that guy in next video.
One final note as well.
It's the last
As
video.
I was editing this video, Radio Reflex with Ian and Alan had an interview.
That's a
with
great show.
Vicky, one of the creative
Radio
writers
Reflex
for
is awesome. I
Bronsonsblood
love them.
Studios. She answered a few lore questions that people had, including some that I asked myself. One of these questions that was asked to her was who exactly Fiona was, and while she gave no comment as to who Fiona actually is,
Oh man.
she did mention that the spring tunic is actually a
good.
family heirloom. Make of that what you will, but that gives more credit to the fact that Fiona is not so much the person wearing the tunic, but
Yep.
perhaps someone a bit older.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of
So,
sense.
After learning about these theories, which ones do you believe to be true? Do you think Fiona was a powerful elemental, one of the old ones? Were they a powerful god that merely instilled their power in the land and its inhabitants? Or
That's
were they
tough.
really just a human all along?
Probably a powerful god or
Until
elemental
more
is my
lore and
mind.
stories are released,
It's gotta
we may
be.
never know the true origin behind one of Flesh and Blood's most influential and powerful characters.
Hopefully we'll learn
Until
one
that
day.
play hard and hit harder.
Wow. Man, another beautiful video. Now we got the final video for you guys today. The Scrollings of a Madman, exclusive Crucible of War, spoiler card reveal. Now I want to say in the last video, it was really cool seeing how Kale from DeadSummer Art took a bunch of information that he read from the lore book and compared it to the artwork and kind of found similarities and mismatches and what have you to really, paint that full picture of what was really going on. And I really respect that. And when I say that Flesh and Blood has depth, that is what I'm talking about. They don't tell you specifically everything that's going on. They give bits and pieces and chunks and mystery, and they put it all out there for you in the lore, but you have to couple that with the artwork, with everything that's going on to really get the big picture. It's very beautifully illustrated, and just, it's great how they give you little hints along the way, but they don't blatantly just tell you what's going on. I really enjoyed that. I think that, DeadSummer Art's channel, it really does a great job at putting all those pieces to the puzzle together to paint that beautiful picture. Now let's go to the last one. We have the Scrollings of a Madman. This is the last video on the DeadSummer Art channel as of December 2020. Here we go. Ooh. This is spooky, guys. I'm a little scared. Oh, this is good. It's my type of shit. Someone's gonna die.
Aether is one of the quintessential building blocks of Wrath. It is Aether which fuels our world, giving life to all beings, giving power to all spellwork. Few truly understand the nature of this arcane force, and no one can yet explain its relationship to the physical world. Some humans possess a unique gift, one which cannot be obtained through other means. Aether affinity is the ability to manipulate Aether, and thus affect the world around oneself through the use of spells. Aether is the basis of all arcane arts, and thus, only those with this gift can practice magic.
That's an important point.
Someone
Aether is like
born
building
without an
points
affinity
of
to Aether
arcane.
will never be able to practice even the simplest spell. Humans have yet to understand this Aether affinity. It would seem that blood is somewhat related, as there exist many bloodlines in whom the affinity runs strong. The scholars of Solana are an excellent example, as are the Drakai of Volkor. However, this is not a given. There are some families in whom the affinity runs strong, and yet their children can be born without it. Likewise, there are some who are born with Aether affinity, despite none of their ancestors ever possessing it. The question remains, What is Aether Affinity, and how does one obtain it? I have tried in vain to practice the
I love those
arcane
parts.
arts, despite my strong ancestral links. It would seem that I am the first in my family for generations to be born without the gift.
Sucks to
So
suck.
why? My experiments in rune work have proven unsuccessful. Carving runes into the
Fear.
skin appears to create some kind of aetheric connection. However brief, but does not allow the subject to control Aether. Many of my subjects fail to survive the initial rune work, expiring before the connection can be formed. Those who do survive long enough for an aetheric connection to be established die rapidly. It would seem that the burst of arcane energy is too much for their bodies to withstand.
Talking about the Arknight. He's creating the
However,
Arknight.
I have had some success in using crystals to inhibit the initial burst of energy. I wonder if there might be some way to provide a resistance, so that the body can grow accustomed to the flow of Aether. As of yet, I have had no success with the Arknight shard itself. I suspect that a biological connection will need to be formed, rather than embedding it externally. But I have yet to determine how this might be accomplished. If my subjects cannot withstand even the runes, I wonder how I might find one who can survive the installation of the Arknight shard. Some of my experiments have shown signs that a gradual process may have a higher chance of success. If the body grows overwhelmed by the introduction of Aether, it may be possible to make a human body grow accustomed to the arcane force over time, increasing the dose as the body develops resistance. Eventually, I may be able to surgically embed the Arknight shard without the body failing, though I would need a particularly durable subject. Preferably one who already had some amount of exposure to the arcane arts. I've been conducting some experiments with sigils and runework, attempting
looks
to
cool.
create layers which mimic spells. While I cannot practice the arcane arts myself, I do possess the theoretical knowledge required. I have had some success with creating runes in advance, which can then be charged by someone with the necessary affinity. Leona has proven somewhat useful in this respect, though I have had to sacrifice some minor research for her to cooperate. At the
Wonder what
least,
that was.
the information she asked for is not particularly important, and I doubt that she'll become a threat. I doubt that Leona is even aware. Sacrifice. Unleash. Awaken. Feast. No more monsters. Perfect. He is already responding well to initial rune work.
Talking about
I
Viscera
suspect
here.
that he may possess some form of aetheric resistance already.
Yep.
Perhaps a blood relative who has the affinity.
Arknight shard worked,
This
guys.
is exactly the subject I
He's
have
an
been looking
Arknight.
for. From his armor, I suspect he may originally come from Volkor, though I am not certain how he survived the seas. Perhaps he was meant for this, a survivor in the truest sense. I think I shall name him Viscera. It feels fitting, and every weapon must have a name. I have faith that this subject
He's a
may
weapon.
survive the Arknight system.
Not a person.
Only time shall tell whether Viscera can become the Arknight, or whether he shall become one more failed test. Either way, I am certain to learn much more about the process, as he has survived more of the process than any of my other subjects thus far. I am eager to see the results.
Yeah, and that was Lord Sutcliffe talking the whole time. He's an interesting man on a mission. And this was the spoiler card that Kale had for DeadSummer Art's channel. Or his channel, DeadSummer Art. That was his spoiler card. And we've already seen Heroes of Wrath and, lore pitch of Faendale. Yeah, that was all the videos, guys, on the DeadSummer Art YouTube channel. We binged them all in, let's see, maybe 54 minutes. And man, that was, every time I watch those videos, I gain something new. And it's really awesome how Kale did all that research, and I really have the utmost respect for him and his channel. The DeadSummer Art YouTube channel is amazing. It's the best lore content out there on YouTube at this time for Flesh and Blood. And honestly, I just want to give credit where credit is due. That channel really got me passionate about Flesh and Blood. It got me into trying to figure out what things are in the lore and trying to understand the reasoning behind things in the artwork. And I feel like he does an amazing job at really illustrating and showing that, because I also want to tell you too is that I would love to make these types of videos. I would love it, but the thing is, I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy who's gonna sit behind a computer desk and mash a bunch of audio and visual and doing all this stuff together for like a month straight and finally releasing a video. That is not me. I am not good at that stuff. But you know, Kale from DeadSummer Art is really great at putting all those things together, and I really appreciate him in the community. Like I really have the like hearts and huge like respect for him in making these videos. And just to give you a disclaimer too, I talked to Kale before I filmed this video. It asks for direct permission to do this type of thing. So if you ever want to, use videos from him, and you might need to get his permission first, but he's a very nice guy. But, I just want to end too is that I know I talk about the lore of Flesh and Blood a lot. I know I talk about, how it's got me passionate about it, but I hope you've seen today, if you've watched this far, thank you for watching this far. I don't expect too many people to watch this far into my video talking about his video, but I'll tell you this, man, it's just like he does a great job at showing the lore, and Flesh and Blood really has some awesome lore. It has some awesome lore and artwork, and there's a lot to discover with this game. There's still a lot to discover with this game, and there's more things that are going to be released in 2021 and beyond. There are going to be more puzzle pieces to the puzzle that everyone has to figure out and put together, and it's really going to be awesome. And that's what's got me really pumped as well about 2021 in particular is more puzzle pieces and figuring out more of what's going on, because it's really quite awesome. And I really have to give a shout out to him. The DeadSummer Art YouTube channel. I'll put links down below to that channel. But also, I really want to say again, I really think it's awesome how the DeadSummer Art YouTube videos are also on Channel Fireball's website, or on their thing in YouTube on their channel. DeadSummer Art has been featured 2 times so far in December 2020. And yeah, those videos are amazing as well. I'm not going to get into them because those are videos that came out recently, and they're pretty long. But I just wanted to show you today the 5 lore videos that got me into Flesh and Blood that I watched when I was starting out in my Flesh and Blood adventure. And I watched these videos, and young Bronson, but 3 months ago, young Bronson was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, this is really interesting, and I wanted to jump more into the game because I saw this kind of stuff. So again, thanks for watching, and please check DeadSummer Art YouTube channel out. I know that I've said that a lot, but it really is awesome content, and I really look forward to everything that is going to be on that channel in the future. Thanks for watching, guys.